Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome to the Noclip Crewcast. This is episode 194. We missed you last week, but it's okay. We're all still here. Most of us, anyway. Danny is decompressing from weeks and weeks and weeks of nonstop recording and talking to very smart people and spending time with the illustrious Frank Howley. Frank, how goes?
I'm good. Same thing as 2 weeks ago, where I'm so jet lagged that I have very low self-esteem right now. I'm so tired.
Oh no!
But I had a great month, and now it's like, oh god, there's so much responsibilities at home. Oh my god, I'm freaking out. But happy to be back. Picked a great month to come back. Jeff Keighley's Summer of Games 2019.
Still going, longer than never ends.
God, there is so much out right now, so it's kind of nice. I feel like I left like right when there was a lull. Like the end of summer, California was on fire, it was 100 degrees. Left for a month, came back, and now we're overwhelmed with video games, and let alone 50 incredible games in one game. So I'm pretty good. But how's Jeremy? How's Jesse? How are you guys doing?
Yeah, Jeremy, how are you?
I'm chilling. I am also jet lagged, not because I've been traveling internationally, but because the team has been all over the world and there's been, less regular morning meetings and podcasts and stuff. I've just slipped into a degenerate lifestyle where I stay up until 6 a.m. working on video games. So, we're all jet lagged here. Some of us have been in the country.
There's no one checking on you. That's the problem. You're working
I have no accountability. I live alone in the
cubicle.
woods.
You're just you're doing the remote worker version of sleeping under the cubicle, eating bags of Doritos, just downing Monsters and Red Bulls, whatever you can to stay awake and get your work done. It sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. Except there's nobody making me do that. I have no discipline or self-control. Or maybe that's the most discipline a person can have is being like, I need to stay up all night making video games and eating Doritos. I actually didn't have any Doritos, but that would have been a nice compliment to the degeneracy.
What's your favorite Dorito flavor?
I'm gonna not make any fans or friends here.
No.
I don't like Doritos that much.
But you don't have you're at a party, they have every single flavor in multiple different bowls. You have to eat one or they kick you out. Do you just leave the party?
Now this is a tense situation for me because different snacks have different characteristics, and the characteristic of Doritos is that they're extremely dusty. So you pick up a Dorito, like dusty would be a snack that wouldn't be a good playing PlayStation with your friends snack. Because if Timmy from down the street is over and he's using your PS2 controller.
Well, that's what you have the Mad Catz controller for, to be fair.
Yeah, to fill with Dorito dust with Timmy's disgusting hands.
That's why it's translucent, so you can get it in there.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm probably not going for the Doritos. I probably just would avoid them.
Man,
I'd be like, do you guys
gun to your head, Cool Ranch, the spicy one? The gun's going off, it sounds like.
I would have nacho cheese here.
Okay. All right. Frank?
Yeah.
I do like the Salsa Verde? What's the one that comes in the purple bag?
Ooh, I don't know.
Or it's like spicy chili. It's so good.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I like Cool Ranch. I like cheesier. There's no bad Dorito flavor, but the spicy chili, the purple flavor is so good.
Yeah, spicy sweet chili.
Oh, it's so good.
Okay, I haven't had that one. I might be a fan of that.
Yeah, no, I can't buy chips because I have no self-control with food, so it's like it's very dangerous. So I just avoid it. But that's the thing though. If I'm at a party, it's like, oh my god, this is a vacation. I'll eat
whatever.
Yeah,
as long as it's cheese flavored. Personally, I'm a Dinamita guy myself. Those little fake Taki looking ones.
Oh yeah.
Haven't had them since Boston, but they're good.
I genuinely was craving Takis in all the different countries I was in over the last month. There weren't Takis. They're the best.
Really?
No Takis.
They didn't have any novelty Takis in Japan?
I don't know. I'm trying. It's so hard to read the package.
They should do.
I couldn't tell if they were Takis. It didn't.
They should do a Pocky Takis crossover into a big long strawberry Takis.
You're cooking too hard. Be careful. The Japanese
delete the
government's going to get your
podcast.
ass.
Delete this episode.
Pocky Taki. Yeah. I was watching anime and then they were talking about a thing called the Pocky game, which I think is a thing that people used to play at conventions. It's like The idea is you offer a piece of Pocky to someone you like. No, I don't know. It's like Lady and the Tramp with the spaghetti.
Oh no!
You both share the Pocky, and then how much do you?
Oh, how far do you go?
Yeah, so that
There's a fine line there where, like, if you want to politely refuse someone but not outright refuse them, you just take like a small
Take a
bite,
little bite,
and then
yeah.
you leave them with a whole Pocky hanging out.
I don't know. If I'm hanging with the homies, we're going all the way on the Pocky game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If me and the boys are playing the Pocky game, it's getting weird.
I'm not smooching my homies. I'm just eating the Pocky. It's okay.
But
I want
the Talkie game would be the Talkie's so much smaller. So I don't know.
You just start locked into each other's lips.
Also, the Pocky game feels like sad because it's a 50-50. You know, Pockies have like 25% no chocolate or whatever on them, just the handle part. So whoever gets that side is just having boring, sad.
That's such a funny way of putting it because it's like it's all
I don't know how
edible.
else to describe it.
But one side is the handle.
You don't eat that part. You just throw it out. Actually, it says it on the package.
Yeah, I have like an old cigarette ashtray on my desk that's just full of Pocky handles.
It's just full of cigarette handles is a very funny thing to call the butts.
For cigarette butts,
yeah.
Yeah. For their cigarette handles, that's great. That's like a guy who smokes cigarettes but has never been around another person who has ever interacted with a cigarette, and he just made up his own terminology for them. He's like, yeah, I smoke them down to the handle sometimes. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. You guys smoke butts? What are you talking about? What's happening here? I don't understand. You put a butt in your mouth and then smoke it?
That's disgusting.
Yuck.
You would smoke a butt?
I wouldn't do that. But you know who else probably wouldn't smoke butts, I hope? I mean, maybe you do. I'd worry about your health if you're smoking butts, or anything for that matter. Hey, we don't judge. But those people would be our Battle Pass holders, including, actually, this list, I feel like we have a much better opportunity here to read this out. Instead of just reading the names, let's have a little fun. Frank had a fun suggestion. Take it away, Mr. Howley.
All right, when the podcast started, my mic gain was so high, and so we ended up riffing about the Beastie Boys, and I was like, oh, I could do a Beastie Boys style rap. This is very indulgent. I'll try to get through it fast. We're gonna do a freestyle rap of everyone in the patron name. I apologize. Okay, whatever. Hey, what's up? I'm tipping my hattery. Shouts out, yo, we got Eamon Slattery. You know what's back? The podcast again. Chilling thanks to Harry Flanagan. We got Jeremy, Jesse, Frank, no unnamed. Shouts out to Battle Royale Games. Call me the Schwarzenegger. I am Arnold, kicking robots down with the homie Arnold. Yes, that's right. We're clapping our hands again with our friend Richard Matheson. This is such a long list. We're going out of town. Call up my homie James Brown. Hey, we're playing slots in Vegas with Mark Rojas. We're not even a quarter way through. Oh God! Shouts out!
Tap out whatever you want.
We'll do the second half next week. Okay. Tucker Morgan. Thank you so much, David Gary, Sven Hooster, Pez. You ain't Nate. Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt, Jonathan Kremen, Eric Hamilton Schneider, Cameron Ladd. So darn glad. What's up again?
He's back. He's
Shotgun
back.
Grenader with Zachary Snyder. Oh no, I'm playing my lullaby harp. Thank you so much to Alex Sharp. Yeah, that's right. Hooray to Alex Guichet and George Dakotas, Jacob Godser, Tora Tilip, and Ryson. And everyone beyond, thank you to our Battle Pass holders.
Well done. Well, I could have got through maybe 2 of those, and you did like 80% of it, I'm going to say. So,
I would have backed out of that bit immediately out of fear. Your commitment is
I
astounding.
I held back a bit. I was like, it was taking a long time. I was like, all right, let's move on. But thank you all.
I appreciate you finding a way to do that PG as well. I feel like I would have just accidentally started saying things I'm not allowed to say on a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that makes it more of like a nursery rhyme, you know?
Right, exactly. You can find this in your local, where do you buy books? Kohl's? You guys have Kohl's?
I did go to Barnes & Noble today to buy Spy Family. Yeah.
Oh.
Speaking of Barnes & Noble, I learned something disturbing yesterday. I hope this is accurate information. Did you guys ever go to Babbage's when you were young? Game store?
Babbage's. Give me a second here.
We had Funko Land, but I know they all got bought out by like EB Games. But.
So Funko Land is also in this story. So my friend and I have a running joke that Babbage's is like, it's this mythical childhood place that we harken back to. That's like, it doesn't exist anymore. It went out of business because the big boys like bought it out, and now it's just GameStop. And it's like, when you die, you open your eyes and you're in Babbage's, and it's 1999 or whatever. I learned yesterday, Babbage's did not just vaporize out of existence. If you look up the Wikipedia for Babbage's, it is the Wikipedia.
GameStop, right?
You just get GameStop. It became GameStop, and so did Funko Land, and so did EB Games. They were all subsumed by GameStop. So
we held the brand up here for EB Games for a very long time. I think COVID, when GameStop stock went to the moon and everyone was hodling or whatever. That's when they switched the name for stock purposes. But we were EB Games for a really long time. We still had it. That's sad.
Yeah, it's sad. I wish there was other game stores. I wish. Well, I mean, there's like Pink Gorilla and stuff, but like I wish there was.
Sounds made up.
Yeah, I mean, I just riffed that one off the top,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. GameStop is kind of a boring place to buy games. I miss being a kid and going to Funko Land and buying Earth Defense Force on the Super
That's
Nintendo.
good. We still have Toys R Us up here, and they still sell video games, which is nice. I get to see whatever the giraffe's name is. Jerry,
Gary.
Jerry, because he's a giraffe. I don't remember.
I think it is
know.
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey. Thank you. Sorry.
No, Frank spotted that. I used to go
I
to
heard
Toys
him.
R
I
Us.
just my brain was like, no, it's still Jerry. How else with a G? Of course.
Denial. I used to go to Toys R Us, and they would have like the display case set up with the Super Nintendo in it, and I would just stand there for like 45 minutes playing games that I had a copy of at home. Like I would just play Donkey Kong Country, and my parents would be like, "We can just go home and play this." I'd be like, "No, it's I don't know."
I could show off my 6 skills at the store.
No one was even there to witness the fitness.
But you'd kill it, and you'd turn around and be like, "Oh."
Yeah, for an applause break, I would turn around and be like, "Are you not entertained, Toys R Us?"
Like everyone's fucking. There's the managers in the back just giving you the thumbs down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you could have got the rest of the donk letters.
I could have gone pro. I could have been pro Donkey Kong Country. You know,
you could have. You still can. It's the future.
I tore my ACL when I was young. So
you got to stop playing with your feet. That was your first mistake.
Yeah. Oh shit! Really?
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about some current day video games, not just classic ones actually, I guess we are sort of talking about classic ones. Let's just jump right into the one that is the hottest at the moment. Everyone's talking about it. Every single person on planet Earth. While I was on vacation, by the way, that's where I was gone last week. We were having our wedding celebration for the week with some family and friends. It was very nice, but I brought my Steam Deck because I'm a huge loser and I needed to play some video games while I was enjoying nature. I actually didn't really play as much as I thought I would, which is great, honestly. I was having much more fun roaming the woods and sitting on the beach. But one of the games that I did play, because I've been anticipating it for like 8 years, I think Frank saw it at Summer Games Fest this year. So I think, Jeremy, you've probably been waiting about as long as me to see this come to fruition.
Yeah.
UFO 50, baby, it's time. You ever wanted 50 video games? Well, do I have a very good deal for them? Somehow this game's only $25. Like I said, I've been playing a little bit of it. I haven't checked out as many as you guys, but Frank, you got to see this earlier in the year, so what are your thoughts getting to the final game now that it's finally out?
Oh my, it is like a miracle. I can't believe it. It also feels like the number one thought that came in my head was like, this was in development for 8 years. I think I saw this at like PAX 2019 or 2018. They made this way before the Steam Deck was even a thing.
Yeah.
And now that the Steam Deck is here, is like, this feels like the perfect game for the Steam Deck.
It should be a pack-in game.
Right. It should come. They should just rename the Steam Deck to the UFO 50. I don't know. But it's like, I think I got it for a plane ride, and I was in like, oh my god, I don't even know where to begin. So just for context, UFO 50, there's like when you open it up, there's like a credit screen. There's like 6 to 8 developers keyly credited. Derek Yu is his name. John, I forget the last name. There's so many super talented developers here. It's 50 games they've been working on this all together. And I don't even know how do we begin. So the premise of this is UFO 50 is like a long lost console. I forget there's an in-game like software developer that makes all these games. And you're like the opening cutscene, you see like a photo of Derek Yu like opening up a storage unit and they uncover this console and then you boot it up and it's like play forever. And it's basically like those old school 1 in 50 flash cards where there's just all these random ass games. And the fun of the game is when you're in the menu that you see all these like cartridges, but they all have cobwebs on them and stuff. And when you boot up a game for the first time, you're blowing off the dust, and you even get achievements for blowing off the 50 cartridges. And even before you boot up the game, there's a menu where it says like, oh, this game was made in 1987 and worked on for 2 years. The info, the strategy. There's like 3 tiers to beat every game. You can beat it. There's like an Easter egg to unlock. There's an in-game like chow garden, essentially, to get presents if you beat the game. There's all this stuff. There's so many things to tackle. One friend suggested the best way to play it is like by chronological order. And if you do that, you can see like the graphics improve. Like the early stuff looks like, I don't know, like Nintendo, NES, maybe even earlier stuff. Whereas the later stuff looks like almost like late, not like early Genesis, late Sega, like 90s stuff. And it's like, oh my God. My immediate thing is all the music in this game is so good. Should we just do round robin and maybe like pick one game
pick
to talk
some games and talk about it?
Yeah,
I like that.
That's a great idea.
So far, my favorite game, there's so many, is Pilot. I think it's called Pilot Quest.
Yeah,
It's near the bottom. The premise of Pilot Quest, someone told me like play this first. I think it's like game 44 out of 50. It's like a clicker game, and it runs in the background as you play the other games.
Oh.
So this is a game you should boot up, I would say, first. And you start, you're a pilot, you crash land on like an alien planet, and you're like in a little village, and you want to help alien villagers, you want to help aliens grow this village. And there's like a giant crystal in the center, and you start whacking it, and it's like, oh, if you gather 500 of these crystals, you can plant a tree. And so the start of this game is you just start whacking this crystal, and it's like, okay, you plant the seed, and then you start generating more. And then there's an alien guarding like a tunnel. I forget, his name is like Smeed or something. He's like, hi, I want to pass this tunnel. You need one piece of meat. And to get meat, you have to pay 500 moon shards or whatever. And then once you're in this tunnel, you have like 2 minutes to gather as much loot as you can and then get out. Otherwise, you die and lose your meat piece or whatever. And the premise is like there's two parts. There's like the village thing where you're farming resources, helping aliens build their homes, gathering, you're farming, you're getting moon shards, you're trading in for meat to go into this like alien battle zone to then get meat and more shards. And like, and the music is so cute. It's very like top down, almost Link to the Past, like not hack and slash, but like melee attacking. Also, everything in this game is like A and B buttons to every game has like 2 different inputs to select. But yeah, so Pilot Quest, I like. The music is amazing. All the character designs are very like Earthbound-ish.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the music
Quest
too. The music in Pilot Quest 2 reminds me of Earthbound a lot. It's this kind of like quirky, bouncy synthesizers, and yeah, Pilot Quest is super fun. I like never play clicker games. They kind of just don't grab me. And for some reason, I fired up Pilot Quest, and I was like, oh, okay, it's like one of these games. Let me like get started, and then I'll go play some like real games. And then before I knew it, I was obsessed. I left Pilot Quest running all weekend. Just like I wasn't playing it, I just left it running so that I could just passively, like I would just walk over to my computer every few hours and be like, all right, my resources are filled up. Let me allocate these and spend these, and got obsessed with it. It's really good. It's also like it has this thing that a lot of the games in UFO 50 have, which is it does a very sort of like high stakes exploration mode where you're like coming from a place of safety and you're going out into the world to do kind of like a mission with like limited time or limited healing abilities or limited weapons or whatever. I think, is it Porgy? Porgy is like a submarine game that has a similar mechanic where you have fuel cool. And you kind of like go out from this base into this undersea cavern thing and you're watching the fuel tick down. But it's really effective how just like, because these games have to be somewhat limited in scope. I mean, some of them are like absurdly big for the fact that there's 50 games, but because they have to be somewhat limited in scope, just because of like the framing device of them being old games, having this ticking time bomb and having to like exfiltrate with your gear in these various games, it imbues these smaller spaces with a feeling of grandiosity, because you're like, I can only go so far before I have to turn back, and it's the point of no return and stuff. So you're like, I don't know, it adds, I feel like the world of Pilot Quest would feel small if you could just explore it freely, but because you're so limited on this short leash, it feels like I could never see it all. Like I only have like 6 minutes to see everything,
Yeah, it's a bit like Minute, that indie game that came out a little while ago.
Where it does remind me of that a little bit.
All the games, you're right, totally have that feeling of it. No, but a lot of like the ones that are adventure style have that feeling of like you're looking for a way to mitigate the resource or time limit that you have, which is what Minute's all about. But like just that feeling is definitely there. It's funny. I feel like the games, and I haven't played all of them. I think I played maybe 16, 17. I've been going in chronological order, like Frank said. And the one that sticks out to me, I haven't checked out Pilot Quest yet. It sounds really fun, though. I should do that now so I can get the cookie clicker endorphins going. But the joy that I'm having with Bug Hunter, I cannot stop thinking about this game. It's like the third game on the list. I can't believe you get 49 other games and Bug Hunter. That's crazy. It's like, this is, I want to say, tactics. It's basically just like Into the Breach 8-bit. I can't believe they figured out a way to do it. It's like a top-down tactics game. There's so many of those in this for some reason. They're all really good. Where you're playing with like a limited number of resources, actions that you can take. And you can swap out the actions from a shop, and you're basically just trying to limit the growth of these alien creatures on a very small 4x4 or like 6x6 map. And you have to stop them from hatching out of eggs every turn. Every breed of alien that's alive like upgrades. So if there's like a blue one, the blue one will get bigger, and then like each one has its own. It's like 4 breeds, I think, maybe more than that. And each one, as it develops, gets a different negative ability after you kill it. So like there's the purple one or pink one where after you shoot it, if it's upgraded, it will destroy the location that it's on. So you have to like, that's the one where I'm like, don't let that get bigger. But then other ones are like, if you shoot this, it'll shoot a little thing off of its body. And like, I think the thing that I like about these tactics games so much in UFO 50 isn't just that they're like very inventive and like just a good version of a good idea represented in 8-bit. Like, I feel like that's really hard to do. I don't think they're getting enough respect for sticking within those limitations and still making something that I would have happily paid like $20 just for that game. But there's so many layers to this, like things that the game doesn't tell you or show you. That's kind of part of what I think is so appealing about UFO 50 in general, is that like every game is so opaque. Like it's almost impossible to figure out what's going on at first glance. I would say impossible to figure out what's going on 30 minutes, an hour in. You have to do so much experimentation. But once you've done it, it's obvious how much they've put into each of these games that just, it's mind-blowing that it's like 50 cents a game. Yeah. I don't understand the economics of that, like how that makes any sense.
I think that's like, that is the thing. If you've not played UFO 50, I feel like that's the thing we should stress the most, is that even though, I mean, this game's been in development forever and I have complete faith in Dark U and a lot of the other developers, but there was always this thing at the back of my mind that was like, is this going to be like 50 like browser games? Like, is this going to be 50 tiny little like Flash games on Newgrounds that they're like, oh no, it's like an NES game, but actually they're very small. And it is not that. It is like, no, it feels like, I mean, this is clearly what it's trying to emulate, but the feeling I got playing it was, when I was a friend, I had a kid whose mom had an NES growing up, and I would go over to his house, and she had this like big crate of NES games, and like I had a Super Nintendo, but I had an NES with like 3 games, but I never had a big NES collection. And digging through those games and just being like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is this game? And then just literally blowing dust off of it and firing it up. It was just like, yeah, I don't know. It was just like this wondrous world of like mysterious games you'd never heard of as a kid. And UFO 50 really feels like that. And it really feels like each one of them is a full-fledged NES era game. Like none of them feel like mini games.
Yeah, I completely agree, because it's the feeling that I got, I think 3 or 4 games in. What's the first one? Mortal or whatever? You were saying this was like really
Barbuda?
Good. Barbuda is the first one, but Mortal is the one that you were talking about, right?
Oh, Mortal, yeah.
Yeah, where you just like shoot your body and use it as platforms and stuff. When I played that one, I was like, okay, this is what video games are all about. This is like something that I think we stress a lot on this podcast, and just in general, when any of us is talking about games, is like, the more blind you can go into something, the better. And I think that's a really good way to approach things if you have like money to waste on something you might not like. Like if you spend $50 on a game you don't like, because we said just check it out, and you don't like it and you can't refund it, I'd feel really bad. Yeah. Like, for a lot of people, that's a lot of money to waste on something, not knowing what you're getting into, but also that blindness is part of what makes it so exciting. So this package of 50 really unique games where you're forced to go in blind to every single one, like there's basically, unless you're like purposefully searching for it, which in that case, you're just ruining the game for yourself. They're all small NES games with like simple strategies. Part of the fun is learning it. That is the joy of UFO 50 to me, is like just picking something and trying it. There's 50 games here. You could probably make a GOTY list out of 10 of these. Like just 10 games in UFO 50, you could make your own game of the year list, and it would be 100% accurate, because some of these are some of the best games I've played this year. So I don't know. It's crazy to me that this is a thing that exists. Jeremy, what game for you though? I mentioned Mortal. If you want to talk about that one, you can. But if you want to talk about something else, go ahead. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Before I pick a game, I just off the back of what you were saying, watching people talk about this game on social media and stuff has been so fun, because you kind of would expect that there's like 3 games that everyone talks about, and there are obviously like more popular ones, but I swear to God, there have been games that I kind of like played a little bit and was like, oh, that's cool, I'll like come back to that, and then I'll go online and see someone post and be like, this is the best game of the year, and it's like, I don't know, it's very cool just seeing how different games resonate with different people, and there's kind of no clear, there are standouts, but there's kind of no clear like, oh, these are the 3 good ones, and then it's like 47 other games. I've seen people talk about like 30 to 40 different games as their favorite.
Yep.
So that's part of the fun of seeing this collection come out. It's just like everyone has their kind of like favorite. I mean, it's like that's what it was like having like fucking NES games as a kid. It's just people would be like, oh, did you play Ninja Gaiden? Like, it's so cool. But anyway, there's so many I like. We can work through a bunch of them. I want to shout out Mooncat. I think Mooncat is one of the best games in this collection.
It's such a weird game.
It's so strange. So Mooncat is a relatively simple platformer. One would think if you were watching someone play Mooncat, you'd be like, wow, you're fucking terrible at video games, dude. Because Mooncat has a very odd control scheme where all of the directional buttons do one thing and all of the face buttons, like the circle, X, triangle, whatever, all do the other thing. And the two functions are move left and move right. So all the buttons on the left controller move left, all the buttons on the right side of the controller move right. If you press right and then you press the left one, it will move to the right and then jump. And then if you press the left one again, it will do like a ground pound. And then if you reverse that order, it'll do the same thing moving to the left. So there's only two buttons in Mooncat: to move, to ground pound, to jump, to do everything. And so it gave me this feeling of like, I felt like I was like somebody's grandmother who was like, oh, are you kids playing video games? They're like, Grandma, it's called Donkey Kong Country. Here, try it. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like it was.
See Grandma on the Toys R Us, like with her head back like this.
Yeah, it's my turn. It was so strange and surreal and fun for me to feel like platforming is a genre that is so it's like comfort food for me because I've been playing this as a little kid. So that's why I really enjoy games like, Celeste and Meat Boy and like these tough as nails platformers, because it's like it's a genre that comes very naturally to me. I've been playing Mario since I can remember being alive. So having a platformer that's like, it's like, I'm trying to think of an analogy for it. It's like if there was a food you'd been eating your whole life and then someone was like, what if it tasted completely different? You're like, this is fucking, it's like I'm eating pizza again for the first time. It's crazy. It
sits in line with the kayfabe, I think. And this is to what Frank was saying and playing them in chronological order, is like that, I think, is one of the first. No, it's not. There's earlier platformers, but it's sort of like that experimentation of control schemes that very rarely we see nowadays. It's like, this is how you do Souls-like combat. R1 is the light attack. R2 is the heavy attack. So everything follows that same sort of schema. But when you think back to it, Demon Souls was so hard because everyone was hitting drink the Estus flask because that's attack in like God of War or whatever, right? So it's that like different control scheme. That's a newer thing. But even back like when the NES was hot, it's like we didn't know, everyone was doing Mario. But before Mario, it's like, what is the pause button? Is it start? Is it select? Is it two buttons? So it made me think of that a lot, of like back when we were figuring out what games looked like, what genres were. It was like, maybe two buttons that do different things. In a different world, you're not saying Mooncat has weird controls. You're saying Mooncat has good controls and Mario's plays like shit, right? Like it's just that way of thinking about it that I think is cool that they incorporated that into the. Maybe it's intentional, maybe it's not, of like the kayfabe of UFO 50's secret developers from the past who made it originally. Yeah,
there's like this it's very difficult to explain the feeling it gave to me. It's like this you ever walk into a familiar place and for some reason it just like you like wake up from your habitual mind and you're like, oh yeah, like I'm in my house. This is what my kitchen looks like. You just like look around, like you're seeing it for the first time. You kind of remember what it was like to experience it for the first time. Yeah. It's like it has this like weird Zen beginner mind to play Mooncat, where I'm like, oh, this is what it was like to discover platformers and to take my first steps in this world. And like, I don't know, it took me back to a very kind of like innocent and naive period of playing games as a kid and just being not that good at them, but just feeling like they were mysterious and interesting. And I just wanted to be good. I wanted to like figure out what was going on with them because they intrigued me so much. So yeah, Mooncat is a very simple game, but it is kind of a magical one.
Totally. Yeah. Frank, was there another game that stuck out to you as being particularly UFO-table? That's not.
Yeah, so like that sense of discovery, and Jeremy said it perfectly, or Jesse, like you have to spend like an hour with some games to like understand it. So there's one game I played like on the plane, did not know what I was doing, came back to a few days later and it clicked. Party House.
Oh my god, I love Party House, dude.
One. Yeah.
Party House is so like, again, I had no idea what the point was the first time. It is almost like someone compared it to like Balatro, but it's like it is almost like it is a deck building game. So the premise of Party House is your host. It's very like 80s, like, hey, let's have a party, let's invite everyone. So you have to. The premise of each level is you have to host a party with like you have to like hit a certain level of popularity or a certain thing. And so when you first start, you want to throw a party, but you don't have any money. So you can invite like a friend, you'll increase your popularity. The more popular you get, sometimes you'll have guests who are rich and they'll give money for the party. And then you can spend that money on so you get more resources, you buy cooler guests or guests with special ability. And so you get guests to your catalog. When the level starts, you have a house with maybe 4 spots. And so you just smash like invite guests. So it might be regular friend, and then like a party crasher. And like the party crashers will have a sign that's like, oh, these guys are trouble. If you get like 2 or 3 party crashers, the cops will come and then the whole like round is over. So you lose any resources you gain. And so you spam X or whatever, and then like if you fill it out, it'll tally up how many popular people are here, how many people brought money, and then you get those resources. You go to an item shop and you can buy cards for the next party that you host. And in a single like game, you maybe have like 20 parties, and at the end it tallies your score, and you have to hit a certain limit. So there's different guests you get. Like in the first one, the coolest guest is an alien, and he automatically makes your party cool. You can have like security. So if like too many like intoxicated punks come, you can kick them out. You can have a chauffeur come if you want a specific guest come. You can have a dog, and the dog can sense who's at the door. So if it's a troublemaker and we'll get the party canceled. So cool. You can boot them. There's a cat that rests on the garage, and they'll kind of screech if the cops are coming too close. And you can also spend money to increase your house. So you can increase the size of your potential like pull, your deck, to have more popularity. It's just like, just the art itself is just all these cool like 80s new wave looking characters. It's like, it's so cute and charming and so ridiculous. But like, yeah, you're trying to like basically build a deck to hit a certain like number. And I'm still figuring out. I'm sure you can go online. There's probably a Steam guide already that's like, have these guests on this level. But it's fun figuring it out. And yeah, it's Party House. So I haven't even cleared the first level, but it's so charming. But it was a game that took me a minute to be like, wait, what the hell are we doing here? Oh, this is amazing. And just the name is perfect, Party House.
Yeah, I was terrible at Party House at first, and I wanted so badly to be good at it. So I played the first level of Party House about 1,000 times before it clicked for me. And now I only have one of them left, but yeah, it's fun. It's just like a bizarro deck builder. It's so cool. And some of the abilities are really interesting too. Like in one of the levels, there's I think it's called like Climber or something, like a social climber. It's like the popular girl who comes to the party, and every time she comes in the door, her popularity increases by 1. So if you can get her to come to every party, she becomes this like super OP guest to have who gives you like 9 popularity every time she comes in. So yeah, it's just a weirdo. Like I guess it is a deck builder. You're right. It's kind of like it's like if you were playing Jenga with like magic cards or something. I don't know how to explain it.
It's just the House of Cards, isn't it?
It's the House of Cards with Kevin Spacey.
No, not Kevin.
It's the House of Cards with
somebody else.
Spacey.
Somebody else.
Okay.
See, this is what I love about UFO 50 is we've described 4 games that all couldn't be more different genre-wise, style-wise, visually in a lot of ways, and yet they all work together somehow. Like if you get bored of one and you try another thing, it's like the disparity of genre and the constant switching between different ideas is so exciting. Like there are a lot of tactics games, but there's like some of them are auto battlers, some of them aren't, some of them are like grid based, some of them there's like a Sokoban game in here.
Oh, that one's good. Yeah.
I love that one. It's really cool. The one that I like, it's not a Sokoban game, but the one that like is a totally different genre switch from what you're saying, Frank, that I've been just loving is Bushido Ball. They need to put that shit at Evo. That is one of the greatest fucking fighting games I've ever played in my life. It's you ever played Lethal League, the first game from Team Reptile? The guys who did Frank, you loved it.
Bomb Rush Cyberpunk?
Yes. That game, I love Lethal League. I think that is so much fun. So to see that represented, it's not exactly the same thing, but pretty close. In 8-bit, it's basically Pong, but instead of paddles, you play as like samurai, and you stab these baseball, volleyballs, whatever, Bushido balls, I guess, back and forth across the screen. The amount of strategy in this game, just against the bots, blew my mind. I cannot beat that last person. I don't know what they put on that bot. It's reading my mind. It knows everything I'm doing. I think I got to like 5. So basically you're it's first to 8. And you have these special abilities. Everyone has their own little thing, right? So you like the first guy you can pick, he's just like slashing, but you can also like dodge roll and slash, which gives you a different attack, and then the charge up attack is his fast fireball, and there's also throwables. None of this stuff is explained, but there's like throwables, and you can throw your special ability, which for him it's like a shuriken. But then some people, like there's another guy who has a sword that stabs up, so if you're trying to throw the ball past him, he could just like shuck it out of the way and just stab upward and knock it. It's such a smart, inventive way of making a fighting game in 8-bit that's not Street Fighter. Like something like that, right? It's a genre that we've had now, maybe in the past a little bit, sort of like Windjammers almost, but just done in this really smart and fun way. And I think the thing that blew me away the most, and I must have not noticed this in previous games, I'm sure it's there, it's not single player. There's a 2-player mode. So many of these games have local co-op. Are you kidding me? How is that even? How did they make 50 good video games and so many of them are local co-op?
I think like half of them are multiplayer.
That's crazy.
So the first day I played this game, me and my best bud from Boston fired it up, and it just. I mean, it to the experience I was talking about earlier of like digging in the old NES cartridges with a friend. It it really captured that feeling of just being like, oh, let's like fire up this one, let's fire up another one, like just the excitement of firing up these games and just like figuring them out together. And the multiplayer modes are oftentimes different from the single player modes as well. Like I went back and played some of the ones that we had played together, and the single player was like a totally different mode. So we're actually doing the same thing later today, and I'm excited now because I've played the back half single player of UFO 50, and I'm excited to see like Overbold. I don't know even what the 2-player mode of that is. Frank, have you played Overbold, the like arena? So this is like. This was the first game I got the cherry cartridge on, which is there's the gold cartridge if you like beat a game, and then the cherry cartridge is like the challenge mode. Overbold is like a top-down arena shooter. It's kind of like Robotron or something like that. But basically, it's like these waves of enemies, and you can buy upgrades to your weapons, to your health, to your mines that you drop and stuff. But as you go through, you can you can like tweak the challenge level of each wave. So you can make it like you get 100 points if you win, and there's only one enemy, or you can get like 600 points if you win, and there's 6 different types of enemy that are all coming at you at the same time. So it's kind of this like risk reward thing of you're basically like gambling on your own ability to complete the wave, and if you die you start the entire game over. So it's really fun. It's very, very addictive. I got like so fiendishly addicted to Overbold one night I could not stop playing it for like 3 fucking hours until I got the cherry cartridge.
That's what happened to me with Valgris too, or Velgris.
Yes,
I think it's
Overbold
Velgris,
is the sequel to Velgris.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay, well, you shouldn't have said that because now I'm gonna have a real problem when this podcast is over. Yeah, Velgris. Yeah, same way. It's like a 2D platformer. I think they have the list of devs. Kayfabe is made by someone who made the game previously, but I think someone who worked on Downwell. Or the main dev on Downwell worked on UFO 50 for some of the games, and you can see it when you play at least Velgris. I'll have to see. What was the other one again, Jeremy?
Overbold was the one I was talking about. Yeah, very different style of game from Velgris, by the way, but same character.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So just like a spiritual 16. I guess not really. Whatever.
Yeah,
anyway, yeah. I'll take your word. I'll check it out and I'll let you know how close it is, because that's the one I got the cherry disc on.
Oh, really?
Velgris. Yeah. It's just so much fun. It's like doodle jump on your iPhone or whatever. Like you're hitting the little zoomy things to go up and killing the enemies, and like it's got that super quick restart, like addictive gameplay aspect of it, and one hit you restart the whole thing from the beginning. It's so that's what I'm saying with like these games. They could have charged $15-$20 and I happily would have paid that, and this is one of them. I would still be playing it now. It's so impressive.
I suck at Velgris. I'm really bad at Velgris. Really? I don't know why.
I can see you being cracked at that.
I haven't put that much time into it. I think I'm just very impatient, and I don't know. I didn't realize there was a double jump for a while too, and then I figured that out, and I was like, I am very stupid. I've been playing this game on super duper hard mode.
That is my favorite part of it, though, of all of UFO 50, is when you spend an hour, you're like, I'm terrible at this, and then you accidentally do something, and you're like, oh my god, that's how you play the game. Like Bushido Ball has rules in it, like. There's a referee at the bottom of the screen, and I was like, yeah, it's a sports game. Of course there's a referee at the bottom of the screen. And then I got in the middle of the play area, and I hit the guy with my sword, and it was like penalty, blocking or whatever. And I was like, Oh my god. This has like a referee with a rule book. So any time like that where you think you've played an hour or two of one of the games in UFO 50 and it's just opened up a whole new bit of the game, a whole new strategy, a whole new play style, or even like the bug hunter. I didn't realize you could. There's a tutorial thing. I should have read that one. But like you can like land on enemies.
Yes, yeah.
Like, that
when I
was a
figured
big
that out
part
too,
of
it blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
Dude, it's also like I feel like I feel like Derek Yu particularly likes this style of game. I'm sure his collaborators do, which is partly part of the reason they work together. But like with Spelunky, there was so much like community collaboration of like, oh, did you hear about this? Or like you'd play Spelunky and then you talk to your friends who played Spelunky. Like it was huge at the GameSpot office, and people would be like talking about secrets in Spelunky and stuff. And I feel like UFO 50 is kind of going to curate a similar experience of like a schoolyard. Like, did
Yes,
you know
100%.
that like in this game, if you do this, that this happens? And it's like, it's just, they're things that you would probably read in the manual for a game. They're not like crazy esoteric secrets, but there is when you obfuscate kind of like seemingly obvious elements of a game, it creates a sense of mystery around things that would otherwise feel mundane. Which is why like I feel like it's kind of why I'm against like over tutorialization in games. Yeah. Like I just played a game I can't actually say what game it is because I captured it for a documentary we haven't announced yet, but I played a game from the mid 2000s yesterday to capture it, and the intro of it was like, did you know you can jump higher than anyone else? Please jump up to me. And I was like, okay. And then I just like jumped 3 platforms. They're like, now try running. And I'm like, dude, just fucking like,
oh my god,
just put me in a fucking room and go up high and be like, but you can't get up here, dumbass. And then I'll be like, I bet I can. I bet I could jump higher than any other man in the world. So yeah, I don't know. Just like UFO 50 goes to that like NES extent of just letting you, fuck up, letting you play Velgris without knowing there's a double jump for an hour.
But that's what you're begging for, right? I feel like that's the games that we tend to come to the most, or like, get excited about, is like these games that, hey, if someone says, hey, I played 2 hours of this and I still don't know what I'm doing, that's like a challenge to us, Like I've been learning how to drive. I'm almost there. I'm going to get my license soon, I swear. And my father-in-law, he has been talking about like the challenges of driving. He's been driving for 45 years. And he was like, driving is so boring. I've done it. I did it for work. I do it to go places. It's not fun. It's just a thing you do to get places, because it's fun for me because I'm still learning, right? But he's like, but the only time I had fun driving was one time my brakes died in the middle of driving and I had to get home for like 4 kilometers. My response was, maybe you should have pulled over. But like, this is like the gaming equivalent of finally driving with no brakes. It's like every game you play is a new thing where you're like, oh shit, this is like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I feel like I'm playing games for the first time again. Like you're just, like you said, Jeremy, it's like going into a restaurant, not knowing what you're eating. It's like getting you to appreciate things that you've taken for granted for so long because you know how to do them, every single pace. You're like, oh, this is the platformer. This is the part where you get the double jump. This is the part where you get the dash. This is, it's a Metroidvania. This is where you get the open the door thing. Where's the grapple hook? That kind of shit. This is like, you don't know what you're doing ever. And you're going to do that 50 times and you're still not going to know what's going on half the time. It's a design wonderland, UFO 50. If you like video games, you like the idea of video games, if you like making video games, UFO 50 is like the video game to buy. You could probably just buy this and not any other video game and be more inspired than if you had spent 3 times as much money on Horizon Forbidden West or Zero Dawn or whatever it's called, the remake that's coming out for your PS5 Pro. Like, you could save so much money. If you want to like learn how to make video games, this is like a distillation of so many design principles, and there's 50 of them. I don't know how you do that. Yeah,
they're really putting on a clinic here. This is such a like game designer's game. It's just every game you fire up, you're like, I can't believe they I saw someone describe UFO 50 as like there was an incredible, like a game jam happened and the people who participated were all incredibly talented, and they took the top 50 game jam games and were like, let's make a full ass polished funded game out of this. Like it just, yeah, I don't know. To what you're saying, it just feels like it's I feel like it's I'm often advocating for watching movies and playing games totally blind, because I've mentioned this on the podcast before, that sometimes I've watched a movie that I didn't know what it was about, and I'm like, oh, this is just a movie about like a small town, and then someone gets fucking murdered, and I'm like, I literally can't believe that just happened. Like, I thought this was I didn't know this was a movie where people die. And having that like frame shift is very exciting. It's like a feeling that I feel like when I watch a movie and I kind of know what it is, if it adheres very strictly to like genre tropes, then I'm like, okay, now I'm waiting for the part when this happens. I know that this story beat will get hit eventually. And not having that reference point is very exciting. So UFO 50 almost feels like an alternate history of games too, where it's like sometimes I'll play a contemporary indie game that's inspired by games I grew up with, like a Metroidvania or something. And I kind of know, even if it's a very good Metroidvania, I know roughly like, there's a part I can't jump over. I'm sure I'll get like the air dash in like an hour. You know, you can kind of like project onto it based on past experience. But UFO 50 is like, some of these games don't feel like they're drawing upon games that I've played, or if they are drawing like the games that I've played once or heard of or like forgotten about. So I'm oftentimes playing these games and just being like, what the fuck is this? Like, where is this game going? And like, how will it continue to develop? So it's just delightful to be that surprised by video games.
Hell yeah. Completely agree. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Any other thoughts on UFO 50, Frank? Were there any other games you wanted to mention before we talk about some other stuff?
I think one of the last games I booted up, it was a cowboy icon, and I clicked on it. I think it's called Grimstone. I could be wrong. And I start, and it's straight up like a JRPG. Like there's full-blown cowboy JRPG in here. You start, and you're in like a saloon that's on fire, and it's like, you got to wake these people up. And you can only wake up 4 people before the saloon crashes, but that's how you pick your starting party. So I just talked to as many people left, and then I was like, wait, this is a JRPG? Let me go back and start my party. So I picked a different crew, and then you leave the town. Oh my god, you have to level up and hit monsters. You get his equipment. It's like, how big is this game? This is a whole ass, I don't know. So I'm sure you have that experience 50 times over, where you start something, what the hell, and then it's amazing. This is, again, like I said, the ultimate Steam Deck killer app. Also on the main menu, you can like favorite each game. So I think what I'm going to do is keep dusting off every cart, and then maybe pick like 5 to 10 games that like favorite them, and like, ooh, these are the ones I want to actually beat, get all the things. Yeah. I could totally see myself Pilot Quest as like the ultimate thing just to have on while I'm like watching TV or something. Just like, just keep mashing A at the center. Spend some ingots, buy some meat. I don't know. Pilot Quest is a game that would get me on its own. But I'm sure everyone's going to have their favorite. Yeah, feel free if people leave comments what your favorite is. I'm sure this will end up on our Game of the Year discussion. Which game within the game?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's the question is, do we nominate individual UFO 50 games?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. I don't know. So I feel like also like we should probably like bring this up every few weeks, or maybe next week. It'd be fun if like every week it's like, all right, U50, we report on a game inside UFO 50.
Yeah, hey, why not?
There's a lot coming out, but I really recommend it. It's so good. But the fact that like, this is great for Steam Deck also because it's like, I don't know, how many megabytes is it? Like gigabytes?
It's tiny.
It's nothing, yeah.
It's so you can fit this in. That's the one anxiety with my Steam Deck. Anytime I travel, it's like, oh god, how many games can I fit in here? But any of these it's not a micro, but any of these like, the other reason it's a good Steam Deck game, and I realize this on plane rides, is like I was playing SMT5, which is good. That kills your battery. Like a modern PC game, the Steam overheats. It's like, oh shoot, okay, battery goes down fast. Something like UFO 50, it's surviving a lot longer, so it's resource friendly, and I bet on other PCs too. But yeah, UFO 50 lives up to the hype, incredible, and then I can't wait to see as more stuff pours out in Steam guides and screenshots and community stuff, and it's brilliant, so it's awesome.
I can't wait to find out more. Yeah, and there's a lot of layers to this. Also, I haven't seen it come out yet. Oh, Jeremy, you were just about to say.
I was gonna say I don't know anything about it. I just know that I assumed that there was going to be one, and I have heard tell that there is like extended kind of like meta framing ARG type shit in this
There's
game.
Something going on. Each
I don't
game
know
looks
what
like it has
is,
like a
but
cheat code or a password system or something.
There was something I can't remember. I think it's when you're in the main menu. I hit like one of the buttons, the Chow Garden or whatever, and then there's like a debug screen.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh crap, what the hell is this?
There's something going on.
Yeah.
I had a moment where I'm such a dumbass, but for 1 minute I lived in a world where this was my reality. I was looking at, so you can sort the games by different parameters, like chronological release and stuff. One of them is sort by time played, and I had played like 40 7 of the games or something. And so I scrolled down to the 3 least played games and I moused over the bottom one and it said 48th most played, which all 3 of the bottom most said that because they all had 0 minutes, 0 hours, 0 seconds on them. And for 1 second, I lived in a world where I was like, oh my God, there's only 48 games on the main screen. Where are the other 2? And then I was like, oh no, all the bottom ones say 48. But for a split second, I was like, holy shit, have other people noticed this? Like I had like an X-Files fucking Mulder moment where I was like, holy fuck, dude. It's been hiding right in plain sight this whole time.
Too funny. I can't wait to find out more. There's going to be something. I'm sure there's a Reddit I could read. I don't want to know that right now. I want to wait for some big revelatory 51st game to appear. And like it only unlocked when 50 people meet at the same location in Nevada and like hold their Steam Decks up to the sky or something. It'll happen. It's like Animal Well earlier this year, right? Where it had to be some collaborative thing. I can feel there being something in UFO 50 where people got to call a number at a certain time or some ARG going on. Anyway, if you want to join that team of people working hard to discover more secrets for me, because I'm too lazy to do it, UFO 50 is available now on Steam for $25 American. And I don't think it's on any other platforms, right? It's not on Switch or anything. Which
not yet, no.
One day, it feels like a good Switch 2 game. I mean, it would play fine on Switch 1, but maybe on launch. Who knows? We'll see. But it's not the only game. There were more than 50 games that launched this week that we wanted to talk about, both literally and just in UFO 50. And one of them is a remake of one of the games of all time. That's right, Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. It's time, baby. Let's kill some zombies in a mall. Frank, you've been checking this one out. How did they do? Is Frank West's hairline still absolutely bungled?
I can't. I feel like everything looks good. It's also the kind of thing where I haven't played the original in so long I don't remember. So the graphics look awesome. Also, this game I got the deluxe edition, which has so many dumb costumes. So I started playing this game as like Chris Redfield, or like you're still Frank West, but you have the Chris Redfield outfit. And if you do that, it changes the mall's music to like the save room theme. Also, you can play Dead Rising Deluxe Remastered in Japanese, which is amazing. So it's got full Japanese dubbing, which is very funny because there's a side quest, one of the survivors to rescue. It's the same, but there's Japanese tourists in a bookstore, and Frank West can't talk to them unless you have the Learn Japanese book. But you're already speaking in Japanese.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Franku Westu desu. Like. And it's like, I don't know. So it's a weird fourth wall thing, but it's good. But pulling back. So yeah, Dead Rising, one of like the best. This came out like 2006 on 360, like year 2 Xbox 360 game, one of the best games ever. As a kid or teenager, oh my God, an open world zombie game. Little did I know that's all we'd be getting for like 20 years. Phenomenal game, amazing. There was a Wii port shopping edition, whatever. There was like a legit fine remaster HD, like PS4 edition, like 5 years ago. So it's so funny. This is now like the 4th time, but this is now done in the way of like Resident Evil 2, like Capcom still continuing their rise out of like that. There's that brief moment in the PS3 era, Resident Evil 6, where Capcom was like, oh God, where are we going here?
Yeah.
Street Fighter 5, like they had a few misses. Capcom is still soaring high. This is so good. Graphics are great. The controls are so much more like tight and snappy. I feel like the OG one was very like Monster Hunter, where it's like there's a slight like delay of input, and if you move, it's like you better commit to that. Whereas here, everything is so fast and smooth at 60 frames per second. Now having played Dead Rising 2, 3, even 4, it feels like I know this game. It's pretty easy. The major thing, it feels like XP generation is like times 10. Like, ooh. So the benefit, especially as a remaster, someone who's already played the game a few times, you don't have. So when I played this on 360, the game was so hard and brutal where you had to kind of like fumble around and miss the main quest a few times before you were high enough to actually beat the game. I'm sure there's pro gamers who can do it, no problem. But for me, it's like, oh, they made it easy enough to where like you can just beat the game in one sitting without having a new game plus it 5 times. What I did on original is like grinded the Mega Buster before I could beat it. So here it's like easy. It works great. There's some quality of life improvements. It seems like the AI is way smarter. They don't get stuck as much. I can't remember if this is in the original, but it seems easier to guide them. You can like point a marker, tell them where to huddle up. I don't know if they have extra health, but I haven't had any survivors die yet, which is a feat. Also because I've already played these games, like I feel like I do a much better job playing the objective, so I'm having a better time. Whereas I feel like the first time I played this game, I was so blown away by the novelty of an open world zombie game that I was like, oh, let me just try every weapon in the toy store. Let me try every weapon in the gun store. That I would miss all the objectives.
That's what I did too. So like, I was wondering, because I've never actually played Dead Rising the way you're supposed to. I think I played Dead Rising the same way I played Grand Theft Auto.
Yep.
I was like, oh shit, San Andreas has a story. I was like, I thought you just go around activating the jetpack cheat code. I did the same thing in Dead Rising. I was just like, beat things up with the guitar. Oh, you can use the golf club and actually hit the golf ball. That's so cool. So like, what is Dead Rising's loop? You said there's objectives. Are there like things you're doing or
so
missions?
The idea of Frank West is you're a journalist and you're uncovering the case. What's going on here? There's zombies, but who started the outbreak? Kind of it's different universe than Resident Evil, but the same thing is there's a government conspiracy, whatever. There's other people at the mall who are also like somehow involved in investigating, scientists. There's mysterious, it's so Frank West, there's a main case is like you're meeting with these people in the security room every few hours as you're getting updates and figuring out what's going on. And then there's wacky stuff too. There's cults, there's psychopaths. So it is side content, but it's basically main content too. You'll get the janitor Otis who will ping you and be like, Frank, again, it's in Japanese. So it's like, Frank West, Frank West, there's a psychopath at the kids' carnival. Go fight him, or there's survivors. So as the main quest would be like every 6 hours. So you do the objective, and usually it's a boss fight or escort mission, whatever. And then you have time to kill. But in that time to kill, you'll get like 5 different objectives. But the way everything is grouped together usually makes sense. Is you'll do a mission in one area, and there's like 3 missions in that area. So maybe it's kill a psychopath, get like 2 survivors, and then bring them back to the security room. And then as you're on your way back, you'll get another message from Otis that's like, oh, there's another survivor over here. And then it's the resource management of like, okay, I have like 3 survivors with me. Do I want to try to go across the park to kill the psychopath? Will I put these survivors at danger? Do I want to stash the survivors in the warehouse, secure them, but then am I missing out on time? But I'm feeling because this game is easier now, it's confident you can do it all in one go. So it's been easier. I guess we started with the Beastie Boys rap probably because this game's soundtrack is all like new metal. It's so like I forgot it's the same track as the original. I completely forgot it, but in the middle there's like escaped convicts driving around and they're listening to this like insane new metal song that's very like Beastie. I don't know. It's awesome. It's so
there's no other word for it.
It's so cool. It's so sick. I wake up in the morning. It's like that. It's awesome. It's so good. So it's great, and I appreciate that. Like it feels like I'm already. I think the way is it's like there's 3 days and then they get the true ending is day 4. So I'm already on day 2 powering through. I'm already like level 30 out of 50.
Wow.
Also, if you take pictures of groups of zombies, there's way more XP again compared to before. So it's kind of easy to cheese. Like at the start of the game, when the zombies are infiltrating the mall, you can just pull your camera out and take like 20 pictures and you will probably get to level 10. Honestly, do it. You've already played it. I don't know. Just make life. Why struggle? I don't know. It's awesome. They Capcom, this was a kind of a quick turnaround. I feel like this thing got announced, I don't think even at Summer Games Fest. I think after Summer Games Fest, like in July, they did a Capcom Direct. And it seems like what they're doing is like, again, the history of the Dead Rising franchise is kind of a bummer because it was Dead Rising 1, awesome. Dead Rising 2, co-op, awesome. And now I don't want to like throw shade. Then it was Capcom Vancouver took it, and Dead Rising 3 was an Xbox One launch title. It had like Xbox Smart Glass and Kinect stuff in it. That is like what the it wasn't 60 frames. It was okay. And then Dead Rising 4 was all right, but like it kind of, fizzled out. And so it's cool that similar to how Capcom gave Resident Evil this beautiful treatment, their sights are on Dead Rising. It uses that brand new RE engine. So it sounds like they're doing Dead 1 Remaster, testing the waters. I hope they do Dead Rising 2 Remaster, and then I hope they do. They wouldn't call it Dead Rising 3, but I hope we get like a real Dead Rising 3 or a new Dead Rising. So
that would be really funny if they call it Dead Rising 3. That would be so mean.
I know. I don't know. But it's like even with the way the Resident Evil series is now, there's like Village and there's like a whole new generation of characters. So it'd be cool to see where they go. But Capcom has been killing it. This was awesome. And I think it's $50 as the base or 60, but it's not a $70 title. So it's definitely worth playing. If you've played the original, you're probably hungry for it. If you've never played Dead Rising, hey, this game is awesome. I really recommend it. Yeah, it's good, and I think it's on everything. I'm playing on PS5, yeah, it's which again, it's funny. It was a 360 launch title, so now here we are. It's kind of funny to play Dead Rising on a PlayStation. I played Dead Rising 2 on PS3, but yeah, Dead Rising 1 is so good. So it's nice to have now a fourth edition of this. But it's great.
Fantastic. There you go. I'm very excited to check this out myself. Like I said, I hadn't really actually played it, and it looks better. Like you're saying, it sounds like it's a lot faster. They get that some of this stuff is antiquated. You don't need to spend 3 years leveling up. I do remember taking pictures of zombies and finding that very funny. So I can't wait to do more of that and get the unique ones. The only thing I remember story-wise is the insane clown, not posse related, who like has the big chainsaw and is freaking out in the store. Exactly. Chainsaw juggling. So yeah, I want to see more of this game. It's like I said, it's a bit like San Andreas for me. I'm like, it's just, you're in the city and there's nothing after that. Right. And then I'm 18 playing it again. Like there's more.
I've heard when you beat the game, before that you beat it, there's like survivor mode, which is a very like, okay, there's an achievement if you survive like 14 days. So people would play like for 14 hours straight and like brick their 360s. Now they just have infinity mode, which apparently is like a great way of playing it, like a great sandbox mode. The other thing though, if you want to try to get that 70, that like whatever that crazy achievement is, you can skip time in this. It has almost like the Oblivion like wait thing. So that's another thing that a huge quality of life improvement. So you can skip time in this. So even if you somehow miss your case and want to start over again, skip time and then get to the next story mission. So I'm sure there's other quality of life things I forgot, but again, I forget where we talked about this. It's like, it's a good sign that like good quality of life stuff, you don't even remember or recognize it. It just plays so good that you don't notice that this was a change. One of the things that people point out is on the roof. It used to, there's now like a ramp. Whereas before, I think Frank West had to actually like pick up survivors and like lift them up to get, I don't know. So it's just, they put a ramp. They made it more accessible.
Yeah, let's go.
20 years later, which is awesome.
Ramp.
So Dead Rising is great. It's zombies are so cool. I don't know. I read Walking Dead over the summer, so I just gotta, give it up for zombies.
Dude, zombie fever is bad. There was like a time before zombies were completely played out. There was a time when we were like teenagers where zombies were the fucking best, man. I was like, I've mentioned this before, but it's the most embarrassing thing imaginable, and yet I love it. I was on a LARP, like a role playing server for Resident Evil, where people would just be like, you would just like type what your character was in Raccoon City, and then they'd be like, okay, like the mods would be like, okay, you start with like 6 bullets, and then you would like allocate them in text, and people would just fucking RP in Raccoon City.
I think it was like 2004 was Zombie Mania for me. I was like 13 years old, so where it's like, okay, I can feel like I can rent and buy this stuff on my own without needing a parent. Usually, my parents would happily buy this for me, but it's like, okay, you could seek out the media you need. 2004, I think, was Shaun of the Dead. 28 Days Later, the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Yeah.
And then Resident Evil 4, I think, was a year later. But it's like, damn, that's a lot of cool ass zombies.
It was big. I had a T-shirt that I don't think you could wear to a school today. It said Zombie Hunter across the top. You could find it if you look for it on Google. It was like a super big image of the head of the first zombie in Resident Evil 1 who like he turns around real scary and you like see his gross old man face. It was that dude's face, and then underneath him, like a skull and crossbones, he was the skull, and the bones were 2 shotguns crossed like this,
like Reaper.
Like and I used to wear that to my public school, just a shirt that with shotguns all over it. But it was sick.
They won't let you wear that shirt to school anymore because of
woke.
We're not saying that. That's I love that phrase, but I hate that phrase at the same time.
I know, me too.
It's so good and so bad at the same time.
It keeps spiraling between like, it's obnoxious. Oh no, it's funny again. No, it's obnoxious again. No, it's funny
just
again.
Drill with the fucking pushing the gauge back and forth like it's bad.
People were mad that they took out the erotica meter in Dead Rising.
Meter.
There's an erotica meter.
Oh, in the original Dead Rising, if you took pictures of like zombie busts or like lingerie, it would be like, ooh, erotica, and Frank West would be like, ooh.
I guess that is weird to like sexualize, like to be horny for like an animate corpse. That is a little strange.
Yeah,
but it also is like an insane,
I guess.
Yeah. So now they took away the erotica thing, but now they made all pictures worth like 10 times as many points. So it's like we all win. It's all XP,
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It sounds like a participation trophy for the people who don't want.
Here we go again.
Sorry.
He's on his soapbox again.
I'm sorry.
Whoa. Hey now.
My bad. Anyway. Dead Rising. So, Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, the Doctor game. Buy it now on everything. $50 it sounds like. Very much worth the money. Speaking of zombies, which were killed to become zombies, let's talk about the anthology of a different killer. I tried my best. Jeremy, you sent me this game and said I have to play it. I'm sorry. I was enjoying nature. How is it? It looks very strange. Just like a billboard style adventure game it looked like, or is it something else? Tell us more.
Yeah, so Anthology of the Killer. This is a game that was made by someone named Stephen Gilmurphy, who has gone by a bunch of different names. Hold on, let me pull up the list here in case people recognize them. Stephen Gilmurphy is an Irish game developer, has gone by The Catamites. I believe there was also went by like Games for School or something. Has like a bunch of different aliases over the years, but makes sort of like bizarro outsider art. Indie games is how I would explain them. Space Funeral is one that maybe people have heard of. But Anthology of the Killer is a collection of this sort of like serialized 10 games that are all named of the killer. So there's like Drool of the Killer, Ears of the Killer. So it's like this episodic series. This is like, I had seen people talking about this before and kind of was like, oh, okay, it's like a cute kind of like weird art style, like hand-drawn kind of bizarro game, but it looks interesting. And then Anthology of the Killer is now coming to Steam in early October. So I grabbed it on itch because I saw people saying that it was their favorite game of the year. And I was like, oh, I thought this was like maybe a little kind of like interesting cul-de-sac you go down. You're like, oh, that's like an interesting little art game, and then you bounce off it. This is one of my favorite games of this year. I swear to God, I know I get very excited when I play a game that I like, and I try never to overstate its importance or its quality. This game deserves an insane amount of praise. It is like, I guess it's like a comedy horror RPG. It's not really an RPG. You're just walking around and interacting with people and talking to people. It's kind of just like an exploratory art game. But what it is like you play this girl named BB who is writing a zine in this kind of it's not like apocalyptic, but it's like an amplified, super like absurdist version of the world we live in. So she lives in the city, but you can't go out in the city at night because there's literal like gangs of murderers wandering the streets. And so it's just this kind of like turned up to 1,000 version of the real world. But the entire game is kind of permeated with that energy. Like everything about the world building and about the storytelling is just like, it's so smart, but so funny, and it's so dumb, but it's so smart at the same time. Like I'm hesitant to do too much analysis here because the game itself is kind of making fun of super analytical ways of looking at art, and it in many of the episodes is like making commentary about people who are just like too analytical about art instead of just feeling it. So I don't want to do the thing that the game is making fun of, but I do feel like it's worth at least kind of like getting in a little bit to what makes this game special or why I find it so refreshing. They're in the second episode. I won't talk about any of the episodes beyond this, but in the second episode, they explore a little bit the idea of these gangs of murderers wandering the streets. And just to give you a sense of the kind of like sense of humor of these games, you end up interacting with some of these like murder gangs, and they're not just like gangs of psychopaths. They're people who are like trying to elevate murder to an art form. And it is like, it's making fun of like academics. It's making fun of people who are very analytical about like, oh man, this is like the nouveau Renaissance movement of it. Like people who are too analytical about art, and these people are doing that, but for the art form of murder. And it's like, it's just taking something that is kind of worth making fun of and just turning it up to 1,000 like the rest of the game. So yeah, I don't know. It's just like, I mentioned this when I played the demo for Elation for the Wonderbox 6000, that the writing in the game is so good and so smart and so punchy that I would just walk around, even if there was no gameplay mechanics in Elation, I would just wander around reading everything, and I'd be like, this is great. And I kind of get the same feeling when I play Anthology of the Killer. It's just like in many ways the episodes are kind of structurally similar. You like go to a place, it kind of gets fucked up, you get chased around by something fucked up, there's kind of jokes, there's like little commentaries on like art and philosophy and life and society and stuff, and then it resolves in a silly way. But every time I play one of these, I haven't finished it because I've been like savoring the episodes, so I have a few left, but it's just, I don't know. It's just like a very refreshing like art game that takes itself seriously in that it's thinking very hard about things, but like does not take itself seriously at all at the same time. And it is far and away one of my favorite games of the year. I cannot tell you, like, don't go into this expecting like a crazy fucking AAA. This is very much like an art game. But yeah, I don't know. It gave me an experience that it reminded me why I love games and why, like games can do things that other mediums cannot. And it's very rare that like playing Disco Elysium, I'm like, holy shit, like you can just make a game like this. Anthology of the Killer had that effect on me. So it blew my mind a little bit.
That's amazing. I think every time you say something like that, where you're giving something high praise, because your level of quality for like saying something is your favorite game of the year has only gotten higher, I feel like, over time since we've been doing at least the Crewcast. So whenever you say something like that, I'm locked in. I'm like, I got to play this game. It sounds like the part of Anthology of the Killer, because I haven't played it. All I've done is watch a trailer here, and there's a joke I want to explain later, but when we get to the end of the segment. But it sounds like the thing you like about Anthology of the Killer is the world existing as a place that you can walk around in and like talk to these characters, and the writing and everything, obviously, like you were just saying, like the sense of humor shines through really well. And if that's the part of it, that's good. But like, I feel like, and maybe I think it's not just me. I love playing video games that are like just places to like spend time in, just like well-realized open spaces, characters to talk to, learn about what's going on. Does Anthology of the Killer have that sort of vibe where it's sort of just a place you're walking around and learning more, or is it a more directed sort of linear story thing?
Each of the episodes is somewhat linear. There are sort of like pockets of, like you get to an environment and then you can kind of like go into a bunch of different areas and explore. And there's, you get BB's like internal thoughts on stuff, which is very funny because she's this kind of, like young, precocious zine writer. So she kind of bounces back and forth between having these very sort of like ponderous thoughts about things, about like the nature of society and like kind of philosophizing, and then also just being kind of like a irreverent young person. The tone of it reminds me a little bit of like the Simpsons comics, like really old The Simpsons.
Yeah.
There's kind of this like very smart punk rock ethos to it, that it's kind of like toppling sacred idols of society and stuff. And and it's also like sometimes when you play, or sometimes when you like experience a piece of art that's doing societal critique or critique about the arts or academia or whatever, it's like a little too up its own ass or something. Like it's like it's pontificating, and it's like please come listen to this is the proper way to do it. This game is not doing that. And it's like it's making fun of those things, and it's not proposing some superior mode of being or something. It's just like, it's just doing this punk rock thing of like being like, isn't it fucking stupid when people like over intellectualize art? And I don't know. It's just very like, it's just, I guess punk rock is kind of the word for it. It's janky and rough around the edges, and it just, it makes me feel things.
Damn. What more could you ask for? Isn't that what gaming's all about? Making you feel things and telling you that intellectuals can fuck off. Is that what it's all about?
It's also $6. It's on itch right now on itch.io. It's $6, and if you buy it, it comes out. Go wishlist it on Steam, so that Stephen Gilmurphy can continue to make amazing games. But it's out on Steam October 6th. But if you buy it on itch now, you get a Steam key from it. So what have you got to lose? It's $6. Just that's just a shitty coffee at Starbucks.
Or a good coffee at Starbucks.
Or an okay coffee.
Or a coffee full of sugar at Starbucks. Cream. This game's full of cream, and it's artistic and beautiful. Just to be clear, by the way, like I said, if Jeremy's explanation and beloved thoughts on video games was not enough to sell you on this $6 piece of art that you need to experience, one sight gag in this game that I'm seeing in this trailer, and I'm going to read it out. It's very funny. It's one joke. You know those shirts on Facebook? This isn't the joke. This is me setting it up. You know those shirts on Facebook that are like, I have 3 guns and I protect my country, my family, and my truck. And yes, my wife bought me this shirt. Anyway, this is the joke in the game. My gamer boyfriend has never been charged for crimes committed in 1988, 1991, and 1993. And if not stopped, he will kill again. And yes, he bought me this shirt. That and your explanation have sold me on this game, maybe more than anything else. So
it's really, really. That's the thing.
Just
is like
hours of that joke Like
It's-
that level of comedy.
Yes, it is.
Perfect.
It is like that's why I think the Simpsons comparison is good, because like that golden age of the Simpsons when Conan was in the writer's room, and it's just, you're like, this is so funny, and it is like, you know, when you have a really smart friend and they make dumb jokes, and you're like, oh, you have to be smart to make a dumb joke that well.
Yeah.
I feel like this game is doing that. It's like my smart friend who wants to make jokes about like having a little dick, and I'm like, you know, that's like, it's low hanging fruit, but also you're like doing it. You're elevating the art of the stupid joke. So yeah, it's really great. I don't know what else to say about it. Go play it, and if it's not for you, you've spent $6 and you have my apologies. But I am convinced if you play the first 2-3 episodes of this game, you'll, even if it's not your typical type of game you play, I think you'll at least be like, holy shit, like this is something, this is an experience that I'm glad I had.
Hell yeah. I'm going to buy it and play it because you said it's good. And it's $6.
really, really good.
Check it out on itch.io, Anthology of the Killer, and soon on Steam for $6. Can't beat it. Can't beat it. Now, if you don't mind me, I'm going to over-intellectualize another game called... So it's maybe not too much. Caravan SandWitch. This is a, I don't know if you guys remember this from Next Fest in June or July. We talked about this. It's in the video we did on Noclip Crew. Danny was very positive about it. I enjoyed the demo as well. I played it a little bit too late. So Caravan SandWitch is a third-person adventure game that takes place largely with you as a character named, I believe it's pronounced Sauge, I want to say, Sauge. I'm guessing it's that way because there's a baby in the game who says your name with a Z, and they compare it, and they correct the child and say, no, you stupid 2-year-old, it's Sauge. But yeah, it's a game where you're driving around in a caravan, solving puzzles, helping people. I would describe it as like the prettiest a short hike like I've ever played. Basically, the structure of that style of game, I feel like that's become its own genre. I don't know if there's a word for it yet. I think people just end up saying cozy. I don't know what that means. But it's like you are basically gated by a resource that you have to find around the world, and you can either hunt for the resource like a collectathon and look for it. In this case, it's computer parts to upgrade different things so you can access more of the world. If you don't want to just hunt for the resources, though, you can do side quests for characters and help them out and like learn more about the world or the way things interact with each other, or find a fun puzzle. And it's like a big, you know, what do we call those? The Rube Goldberg machines. Do those, and it's like this does this and that. So you get the resources that way, and it's usually faster. That's the structure of the game, basically, of like looking for these resources. The thing that I'm loving about it so much, and this is something that I don't think enough, or a lot of games probably do it, but I feel like I don't engage enough with, and it's making me question things, experiences that I haven't enjoyed, and making me appreciate ones that I have even more. Caravan SandWitch, your sandwich. I feel like the name, I get it.
Every time I hear sandwich.
I know. I want a sandwich the size of a caravan. The sort of setup for the game is your sister has sent out the distress signal on this planet. It's where you grew up, and it's where she's been working, and you've been in this place called Space City for a while. It's like a orbiting space station, and that's where you depart from to go do the mission to find your sister. And when you get down there, the city that you're in, I don't remember the name of the planet, but the city that you start in, the area that you start in, is covered in this like dilapidated leftover machinery from a company. I only played like the first 2 hours. I got a little past where the demo is. But in the space that you're in, you're just seeing like the bones of industry. You're seeing like it's like almost like you're playing in a mining town, like an old mining town, the video game version of that. And you learn not just what the world is for these companies and these characters and these places and these things, but there's a handful of characters called I want to say Tito or Teto. And then there's another race like that are frogs. And their whole thing is like, there's a little kid who wants to know more about the world and is like investigating these monstrous machines, like these huge, just like, you know, those like mining big rig saw things. They're impossibly big to imagine. Like the scale seems fake, but it's a real thing that's used in the real world for us. It's to that frog, there's something roughly that scale. And he points at it and says, that must be important. Look how big it is. And in that moment, I think I felt what I love so much about video game worlds. Like, and my favorite ones tend to be these worlds that are like designed in the bones of something else. Like Final Fantasy 16, the part of it that I liked not more than, but almost as much as the crazy AMV flashy bullshit was also that so much of the game, its world and its characters take place in the bones of these buildings that were created by a species long before the characters in Final Fantasy 16. And those places, there's a mythology around them. There's a story that these characters have built around the world because they have to, and we do this too, obviously. We have to find the pattern, right? There has to be a reason things exist. It's where conspiracy theories start from. It's like, oh, the pyramids can't have just been slaves forced to build giant monoliths to these people who were so opulent. It's like, no, it has to be aliens, right? There has to be some structural purpose to this. It's not just a tomb for some rich asshole. It's also like it points to true north and like all the things. If you connect them, it draws Abraham Lincoln's face or some bullshit. Like, that's what I think I appreciated about 16, and what I'm really, really liking about Caravan SandWitch is like, it's making me think about the sentimentality of like spaces and what it is exactly that we look at and try to answer questions for about nothing, like things that potentially have no meaning. Like there's no structural concept to it, or maybe there is, but like there's no deep meaning. It's like, why is there a plank sticking off the side of this thing? I've seen that multiple times. Maybe it's just a diving board for kids, right? Maybe it is something more. Who's to say, right? But it's like, it's this wonder and this joy that I feel like I don't get too many opportunities to see in games. And then I thought about it more. I'm like, yes, I do. I just don't stop and look. Like, I remember playing God of War Ragnarok, a game that I don't think is particularly deep in too many ways outside of like, I'm sure they spent a fuck ton of time working on it. I'm not trying to be disparaging, but like, I feel like it's so easy to run past all of that stuff. I remember while playing it, there was a moment in one of the areas where if you stop and look, like the architecture of this place and like everything in the way it's placed, and there was a bench where you can watch this giant beam of energy that controls this like building, and just you could sit there and watch it. And I'm like, why would you have that? And it's like, oh, for them, that's beautiful. That's a thing they want to sit and look at. It's like Niagara Falls for us. Like that's what it is. You sit and stare at that thing. I don't know. Caravan SandWitch is just full of these visual, because it's already a very pretty game to look at, like visually, but there's so many places and things and just like environments where I'm asking questions about why it is the way it is, and like thinking about the meaning of these spaces more than I would in other games. I think a lot of it has to do with the pace, and a lot of it is searching for things and like helping characters who are also looking for stuff in those areas. There's just so much of that. I could talk about that part of it forever, but basically whatever. Caravan SandWitch is a very good game that I think a lot of people would enjoy if they give it the time. It looks great. It plays well on Steam Deck. I'm getting like 50-ish FPS on it, so it plays very smooth. And it has giant colorful frogs in it, and it's a delight to be in. It's such a nice video game.
How would you describe? So I did not play the demo for this. I have not seen gameplay of this. I'm just aware of its existence. Is it like is it like puzzly, or what's the kind of like mechanical aspect of the gameplay?
Yes, to talk about the game and stop being a fucking pedant. The game itself is very like, it's basically like a short hike, or like Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip, where you're basically solving small mechanical puzzles, a little bit of platforming, and then the real standout gameplay mechanic for Caravan SandWitch is the caravan that you're driving around. It doesn't just take you between point A and point B. Over time, there are tools that you unlock both for Saj and for the caravan that let you do new things. So early on, there's a lot of spaces you can't reach because you don't have a zip line. You can see the line, you can see what it goes to, but you can't get there, right? So you got to eventually unlock that. But also for your caravan, there are things, and the first thing you unlock is a scanner. So you can like go into scanner mode while you're driving around in your caravan. And to unlock the map, there's jammed satellites that you have to find and go fix them. It's super easy. You just like walk up and hit the interact button. But it's the finding them and the getting to them that's the challenge. And that's usually what a lot of the quests are, is like just go to this thing and and get to it and press the button. But the challenges are fun, and like there's characterization and build up to what makes those places matter to the characters in the world, and makes you kind of like want to learn more about them. Gameplay wise, also with the Caravan, I just unlocked it. I don't know how many more things there are. The scanner can be upgraded with this mycelium scanner, which like shows you the path. This game has like so many things to it. One of the races, when they die, their goal is to share the information that they've accrued over their lives in their death. So like they leave these mushroom sprouts from their graves, and other new younger species can like learn from those mushroom graves. And you could see the path of the mushroom that connects all of these beings with an upgrade that you get for your scanner. I thought that was so cool.
Oh, that's really cool.
Right? Like just like a narrative little thing that like doesn't really matter. Like you can use it to find more spots, but so far it's just like a thing that like makes the world feel more believable. That's just really good. It's just a really like simple set of puzzles. Nothing's too challenging. Like I haven't felt myself, there's no fall damage. You can fall from whatever height and you're okay. There's no combat, but like there's something about just exploring that world, learning more about it, and solving these simple puzzles that give a greater context to all of the spaces. That's just very appealing to me. I'm having so much fun playing it.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, it sounds like in a game like this where it's very much kind of about experience. I mean, there's like mechanics obviously, but it sounds like a lot of this game is about atmosphere and experiencing the world and kind of being immersed in it. And it sounds like they created a very like thoughtful and well realized world, which I think is, you know, that's such an essential part of the experience for a game that is so vibes based, is just having a world that is interesting to spend time in and worth like, you know, rewards your curiosity and rewards your immersion.
Yeah, totally. There's so much of that. It's really nice. Oh, two more things. One, there's random little seating spots that you can find where you just like sit down and the camera just spins around you. It's just a pretty game. It's just so much fun to look at it. There's so much to see. And the other thing is the like main viewpoint of the game, the thing that like centers the world, is this giant deadly tornado of like fire and smoke and everything in the middle of the world. So every time you're seeing like a beautiful vista or you're in this like little forest of trees and mushrooms and everything, just on the horizon there's this deadly tornado that like puts context around the whole world, like why people are still living here as the world is slowly ending for them anyway. So it's a very, vibes is the right word. It's captured a lot of them, and I can't wait to see where they go with more of them as time goes on. That's Caravan SandWitch. Grab it on at least Steam, probably something else. I should have double checked. I'm sorry to the developers. Made by Studio Plain Toast, by the way, and published by Dear Villagers. I'm Googling. It's got Xbox and PlayStation things. So, and it's PlayStation 5, Xbox, it's PC. I don't think it's on Switch. Probably wouldn't work on Switch. But yeah, there you go. Oh,
that seems awesome.
Wait,
I'll
it
definitely
is on
check
Switch. What the hell?
Oh boy.
Good for them.
Good for them.
Good for them. I don't know how they pulled that off. Nintendo's
I'm happy
probably
for
really
those
happy.
guys.
Yeah,
They're working. They're working on the next.
Those
They're
Nintendo
doing
guys, they're doing their thing. But those are the games that we played. UFO 50, it's 49 at least games there, perhaps 50. Anthology of the Killer, Caravan SandWitch, and Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. But we do also have some emails that have been piling up on our desk here, but Frank Howley has done the good job of reading through them and deciding which ones we're going to answer this week. Frank, what are the emails?
Yes, thank you. Please send us emails, podcast@noclip.video. There's so many emails and messages, and also in our Discord podcast chat. We love to see it. Podcast@noclip.video. This week's emails, we got Aaron Thiessen wrote in the last podcast, Jeremy briefly mentioned how an aspect of what gaming is about is playing something where the toys play with you, and his example was wishing his Playmobil sieges were simulated. This threw me back to playing Mountain Blade sieges over and over in my childhood and how specifically important the NPC AI was to the fantasy. Mountain Blade wasn't particularly special in that department, but I was wondering if there were any examples of very memorable NPC AI in a game that really brought the magic to the experience.
It's a really good question.
That is.
It's tough to think of an example off the top of my head. Do you guys have any that occur to you immediately?
Not really.
I did play one of my like quarantine games with my girlfriend at the time was Age of Empires, I think 4, and we never fought each other. We fought against the AI for better or for worse, but the thing like It's so weird. Like, let's give it up for the AI in Age of Empires. They were so nice to spend hundreds of hours playing that game with us. The thing I abuse the AI in that, because if you put a wall down, the AI can't help but just chip at that wall. So I would spam so many walls to kind of just waste the AI's resources. Whereas I feel like a normal player would be like, okay, this is bullshit. Let me go attack the main village. But you can put a wall anywhere and they'll kind of just go towards it. I feel like I abuse dumb AI, but in terms of smart AI that kept me on my toes, I don't know. I don't know.
Definitely fear. I feel like the fear enemies are really good. The way they dodge around and go around corners and everything. A little too hard at times, but that was fun. Only one I can think of semi off the top of the head. I took a second there while you were answering, Frank. Thank you. The Halo grunts, the little guys when you just get me out of here. That was a lot more voice acting than it is AI, but just the way they run away.
That was dead on. That was amazing. That was excellent.
Yeah, I was doing that while I was 3 years old. I was in the booth.
Wow.
No, it was those characters are very funny. I like the Halo. I feel like that's something that they still capitalized on with Halo Infinite with the campaign, was making those the enemies feel funny and silly. And I wish the game was a little bit more fleshed out, but Halo Infinite was pretty good. I can't wait for the next one. I guess it's Infinite. They're never going to make another one. It's just that forever.
Infinite 2, more infinity.
A bigger infinity.
The only one that really pops to mind, I think I could think of more if I had time to think about this, but Divinity Original Sin 2 had very, very good AI. It was I replayed so many of the battles in Divinity Original Sin 2 because it was just sitting down to play an RPG chess game against a brilliant opponent who it was incredibly reactive. And Divinity has these kind of environmental play field factors. There'll be a barrel, and if it gets hit by fire, it explodes. But if it gets hit by something that's not fire, it spills oil everywhere. And the oil is flammable, but the oil also slows you down. So walking through the oil will make you slow, but also flammable. It has all of these compounding factors. And the AI feels like it plays very intelligently off. It reads the play field in a way where it feels like it is doing the same thing you're doing, which is trying to make the best of those elements.
Yeah, love that stuff. That's kind of the best genre for AI, maybe. I can't imagine how much work went into making not Divinity, Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, work at all. Period. The fact just the number of things the player can do in those spaces. Forget it. Environmental stuff is cool, but you could build boxes and be in a spot that couldn't possibly make any sense. You can teleport out and go somewhere else, go back to camp in the middle of fights. Just the number of things there. That's I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, Larian has some very good AI. They clearly I don't know. I mean, obviously, this is kind of obvious to say, but I can feel when I play their games that they play the shit out of those games in the process of making them. Also, Baldur's Gate 3 had an absurd amount of testing because it went into early access. But I don't know. Whenever I play those games, I'm the combat feels like it feels like a new game every time I replay Divinity. It feels like it's not like you walk into an encounter and there's a one size fits all solution to this is the encounter with all the barrels, this is what I do. It feels like there's kind of best practices and the AI rises to the occasion no matter what you do and puts up a good fight.
Yeah, very cool. Great developers. I know what they're doing. Can't wait for Baldur's Gate 4. They're not doing that. Can't wait for whatever they're doing next.
Better be Divinity 3.
It better be. Frank, another email.
Yeah, and I guess also similar to the Divinity is for whatever reason, XCOM 2 I remember that had really good AI, and I would get so angry when I would get flanked or they screwed one of my soldiers. But yeah, tactics, I guess our strategy works very well. All right, Patrick, our next email. Patrick, hey guys, greetings from the very secular country of Sweden, where tales from a Catholic upbringing sounds like something from a George R.R. Martin novel. Listening to Danny talk about virtuous soccer has had me reminisce about games from my youth that helped me form my adult preferences. I too spent countless hours playing Virtua Soccer, and from there spent many years playing FIFA, NHL, and many other sports games. However, two games I played forever anchored a love for strategy games in me: Dune 2 and a game called Z from 1996. Dune, of course, is well known, but I have never heard of Z, a top-down tug-of-war type strategy and resource management game mentioned in any games media outlet. I got it as a Christmas present from my parents, who had no idea what it was, and I loved it. Even today, 25 plus years later, I catch myself thinking about it from time to time. Which were your formative games? And has anyone heard of Z?
I have not heard of Z. I'm looking at it right now. It's a Bitmap Brothers game, it looks like. But
if only Danny was here, he'd be pogging.
Yeah, right.
No, that is a name.
The cover art is insane. If you go on the Wikipedia, it looks fun. It's awesome.
Oh my God. Is it okay? Can you please describe the cover for me, Frank?
It's like a robot. It's a robot smoking a cigar. It's a robot. What's the guy from Full Metal Jacket?
It's like Arlie Ermy as a robot. Yeah.
It's that. I'm sure they used that as inspiration, but it's a robot general dude with giant U.S. Army flags with machine gun explosions. It's like that 1996, like kind of shitty Midway 3D smooth graphics.
If you told me this was the cover of a GeForce GPU from like 1999, I believe you.
True.
It's like graphics is like, but it's funny because it looks like the art style for this game is like top down, like, kind
of looks like Warcraft 2 or something.
What were we did a documentary on it. The in space. What's the
Command and Conquer?
What's the Command and Conquer? It's like that kind of old school art style.
Yeah, this game looks cool.
Z. What I mean, that's a bad. You're not. No. Hey, what was the SOI on that?
What were they thinking? They weren't planning for the potential Google search for Z.
Z. You're gonna show up at the end of the rack at CompuServe or whatever.
True.
It's relevant, you know. Z
Very
the
true.
game.
They should have just called it A, and they would have been set.
There you go.
Z. Yeah. Z. Anyways, that sounds awesome. Formative games for me. I talk about Capcom all the time, but really Capcom in my Super Nintendo, obsessed with Street Fighter 2 and the 6 different versions that came out. So Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat, these are all just the games I played as a kid, but like Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat 2, fighting games. Donkey Kong Country and Super Mario Worlds were like, those are the games I learned how to play video games on. And then like Resident Evil PlayStation. I don't know why Dynasty Warriors was core at a time. Just like I liking hack and slash and like action RPGs. Something about Dynasty Warriors like really ingrained. And then my gateway into wrestling, which now I'm like 10,000% obsessed with. As a kid, one of the first N64 games I had was WCW versus NWO World Tour. Yeah, I'd never even watched televised wrestling. I don't even know how to turn on the TV probably, but like. I played that wrestling game, and then from there, I consumed wrestling video games. Not like the show. I didn't watch wrestling TV till like 8 years later, but I played the wrestling video games. And that was a combination of like liking Street Fighter and Zangief, and being like, wait a minute, there's a 3D because I had 3D graphics. So, and then SmackDown, and then now 20 years later, traveling the world to see wrestling. So. Something about WCW versus NWO World Tour, a Japanese developed game. So those are kind of my early core Frank Howley games. Let alone like Tony Hawk, but that was a teenager. But those are my early games.
My formative games have a lot of overlap with that. I also played a lot of wrestling. I never got into wrestling either, but I played a shit ton of wrestling games as a kid for some reason. All the N64 wrestling games. My like hit list is Earthbound, Secret of Mana, Final Fantasy VI, Diablo 2, StarCraft, like all the old Blizzard games I loved. I was really into like weird JRPGs. I got into emulation so young. I have like memories of staying home sick from school and playing like RoboTrek and Terranigma and Soul Blazer and a lot of old games like that. We had a cameo in the background.
Hi, wife.
Anyway, Jesse, what are your formative games?
Whatever my wife says. No. Formative games, gotta be BioShock. I didn't really get to play video. There was like a period of time I started playing Diddy Kong Racing N64. That was the best game ever made for like 3 months. And then like we didn't really have a ton of money growing up. It was like I played RuneScape at the library on the library computers.
Hell yeah.
So like that was my shit. RuneScape for sure. That taught me how to grind. And then I think BioShock was my first big AAA. This is what video games are all about, man. Libertarianism and going underwater. That's what it's all about.
I love Ayn Rand. I love Ayn Rand in video games,
dude,
man.
10-year-old me was going crazy. I guess I would have been 10. Like, I don't know, whatever. 14-year-old me was going crazy. I was like, dude, I know Ayn Rand. I know Atlas Shrugged. I never read a goddamn page of that book, but I knew Andrew Ryan was all about it. He knew what was up.
You should not read a damn page of that book.
You couldn't pay me to at this point.
Just a general rule for life.
No shot.
I think that's a pretty solid list. It'd be fun to make do an episode where we make like a master list of all our like influential games. Speaking of, I know we got another email, I think, but we got our 200th episode coming up soon.
We do.
I feel like we should do another episode where we rank 1,000,000 games. Remember when we ranked 100
games?
1,000,000, yeah, and it lasts for a month. We just
the first episode 100 was like we took viewer suggestions, which is awesome. But it's like if we did episode 200, we could just do literally our favorite. Try to like draft the four of us our top 100 games. But honestly, the ranking random games was funny. I feel like we should collaborate with that. With Danny, or we force Danny to do something for the episode.
I do also like that.
Yeah, Danny doesn't have enough on his plate.
Yeah, no, it's not like he's busy. It's not like he's been traveling the world for a month straight.
No.
Oh, we're gonna have Danny sit down, play. I don't know.
Let's make him play 100 anime video games.
Danny has to co-op Dynasty Warriors 3 with me.
Hold on.
He has to, Danny has to play our favorite games respectively. The three of us. He has to play with us.
We have to make our own UFO 50 for Danny, and he has to blitz the whole thing.
It's called UFO 3, and it's just 3 games, and we didn't make them.
I will say, because now the third time I mentioned Dynasty Warriors, they showed Dynasty Warriors in the PlayStation State of Play. Oh my God.
This is like the Origins game, right? Like Dynasty Warrior 0.
It's so funny they're rebooting Dynasty. It's whatever. It's all the same. It's awesome. I guess we're tailing away from the point, but whatever. That was cool. I just wanted to shout out Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah.
It's back.
Yeah.
Hell
All right, next email.
Quick one from Chris Keating, because a few weeks ago I was talking about museums. This is regarding podcast 193. You guys should check out the Museum of Jurassic Technology. It's in LA. It's really weird. I want to say it's like if David Lynch had a museum, but I think it might be weirder. I haven't been there in a few years, but I can confirm a friend visited recently, and it's still bizarre and worth the trip. So I looked into this. I think this is like west side of LA near Venice. No, it's in Culver City, which I think is by the airport. So it's like whatever. This is basically almost like a Ripley's Believe It or Not, where it's like oddities, but also it's like stuff that's knowingly kind of bullshit, but like still weird for the sake of weird. I like looked at Google reviews and stuff, and like stuff was split, but it looks cool. And the David Lynch comparison is spot on. It's in a weird building. Like if you look at this on Google Maps, it's like, it looks like a fake, like if you go down Disneyland or Universal Studios, you see like fake stores. It looks like that.
It does.
The Museum of Jurassic Technology, but inside it's like they have a gallery that's dedicated to like the Soviet dogs. So there's oil paintings of all the astronaut dogs, just a bunch of weird exhibits.
You're not joking about the facade. It looked like the facade is a door and then a water fountain next to it, but like it looks like the
Resident. It looks like the Resident Evil mansion. Yeah. If you're inside, that's what the rooms look like. It's got like beetle exhibits. It's got weird plants. Everything's way too cramped. It looks like it looks like the Spencer Mansion.
It does have a survival horror vibe to it. Yeah. I have heard of this place, but I've not been to it. But I have friends who've been, and everyone who I know that's been has said it was super interesting and kind of like a bizarre experience. We should go. We should do a field trip.
They're only open like Thursday through Sunday, and on the thing it's like, if you have to hit a buzzer for someone to show up. So I don't know if like it feels like obtrusive to get in, which is like, okay, this sounds awesome. How the hell do they stay open? I don't know, but it seems so weird that I'm down. I'm eager to check it out. I put it on my like Google Maps thing of stuff to do.
There's one of the exhibits that they currently have is the unique world of micro miniatures of Hagop Sandaljian, who is a miniature sculptor, and it says currently on display. These are the 3 sculptures that on display: John Paul II, the Pope, Napoleon, and Goofy.
My 3 favorite world leaders.
Yeah, I just thought that was like a funny. It's like, oh yeah, Pope John Paul, Napoleon, and Goofy, the 3 most prominent historical figures.
Maybe the most important, some might say. Don't ask what Goofy was doing between 1939 and 1943.
He was making our country great.
Yeah, okay.
Gosh.
That's Goofy at the Nuremberg trials.
It is. Gorsh.
Mr. Goof, what do you have to say for yourself?
Gorsh. Anyways, no, that's cool. Please send in museum recommendations from around the world. I have this insane Google Maps thing where I just keep adding stuff. 90% of it is real life locations from anime, but so cool. Yeah, this is in Culver City, not too far away from the La Brea Tar Pits, which I also need to check out. But museums, you gotta love it. That was awesome. Thank you guys for sending emails. It feels good to be back on the podcast again. Super jet lagged, but we did it. It's nice to be back in your company, Jeremy and Jesse, the double J.
Good to have you back, man.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
It's been a weird month having everyone be scattered to the winds, but it's good to be back.
I feel like you guys both recommended this game. My Steam Deck game of this last trip, the thing I sunk probably 10 hours into, I finally played Slay the Spire.
Yes!
Oh, shit.
Oh,
Dude,
my
first
God.
time
So
playing Slay the
addictive.
Spire? That's awesome.
I got so like I played it to the point where I was starting to feel nauseous because I was like doing speed mode and just
Yep.
looking at the numbers nonstop. I would like it. Oh my God, it is so good, and it's so funny how it's like it's Marvel's Midnight Suns, but like it's the Matrix code of it.
Yeah,
It is
stripped
the
away.
exact same. It's amazing,
Yeah.
and I think I kind of burned. Like I beat it with one character, and then you unlock 4 characters, and I got to the boss with one, and I got so. You know what screwed me? Steam has a back button. The back button's on the Steam Deck. I was looking at my cards, and I accidentally bumped the back button, and it skipped my turn,
No.
and I died. I
that
lost
sucks.
half my HP, and it was like.
Because you were white knuckling the Steam Deck so
Yeah,
hard.
and
to
it was
choke
like
yourself.
it was right before the last boss, and I died, and it was like, you know what, I don't care. But what I might do is it's on Game Pass, so I might download it and then just burn through a bunch of Achievos. But yeah, Slay the Spire, I think it was like $8 at the time. It's consistently on the Steam store has like a top Steam Deck games of the month. It's like number 8 or something like that. It's consistently on the top Steam Deck games.
It's an excellent game.
It's Slay the Spire.
It is the Philip Morris like cigarette of video games, but as a
toasted.
compliment. It's so fiendy, dude. I don't know. I had a similar thing with Balatro where I had to like hide it from my Steam library because I'd be like, I could just pop in a little Balatro right now.
I can make
And
that my
at some-
full-time job. That's fine.
At some point, I needed to like remove it from my Steam library because I was having like it was like triggering relapses for me. I was like an alcoholic who drives by a billboard that's like, drink a cold one. And I was like, I should drink a cold one. You're right.
While I'm driving. You're right.
Yeah, I should
Why
stop by
not?
the liquor store and drink
Yeah.
one on the way home.
That's I'm so glad you played Slay the Spire, man. It is
great.
not just one of the most amazingly fun, addictive video games of all time. It's also just like so important in the modern day. I feel like every card game is trying to be Slay the Spire or like trying to find its own version of it. So, who's your favorite class?
There was one where you get like lightning orbs
Yes.
and
Oh,
like
the
shields.
machine or
That
whatever
one
it's
was
called.
awesome. That one
Yeah.
was so cool.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's and I looked at like a Steam guide and like someone's strategy was right where the game is really about protecting your HP points where
Yeah.
it's more valuable to spend all your things on shield and play more defensive, but then when there's the opportunity to attack, do that. And once I learned that, it was like, oh yeah, I was able to get to the boss and stuff. So it's and like the strategy of like, you know, do question marks, never fight major bosses. Like you got, it's like it's just it's so interesting. And so yeah, Slay the Spire. And I double checked. Is number 8 on the top like played Steam Deck games. So it's I can't. It was so funny, and that's why I like. That's one nice thing. There's millions of nice things about traveling. You got to see the world, but you also get to dig into
But
your
also you
Steam
get to game.
backlog.
Yeah,
You get a
hell
game.
yeah.
So
That's what it's all about, really.
plane rides, chilling in the bed. I just wish that airplanes' USB ports could power a Steam Deck because the USB things on airplanes are not powerful enough for the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
So
I also feel like
it-
planes should have free Wi-Fi. I get it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you know,
And
come
they
on.
should go like 10 times as fast. I don't.
And it should be free to get on them.
Yeah.
I also think that we should just teleport. We should just skip the middleman, get rid of the planes. Let's figure out
Yeah,
teleportation.
yeah, I'm down with that.
I think
Go
we
to
should
Japan every day.
We should teleport. We should invent teleportation, but I think there should still be a like social normalization of wasting 14 hours playing Slay the Spire. Like
Yeah.
after you teleport, it's like you're there. People are like, "Oh, you want to hang out?" You're like, "No, I gotta play 9 hours on my Steam Deck before I'm acclimated." You know, like you still gotta
Yeah.
have the game time.
Like the vinyl hipster of transportation. You're like, I just like the ritual, man. I just like
Yeah,
you know,
it's not just about the ritual. Playing
Yeah,
Slay the Spire. I get like a 1 can of ginger ale and drink it out of a tiny cup. You know, it's all
I
about
ate the
ritual.
worst cookie you've ever had.
I have
Like,
a disgusting
of all time.
stale like
Yeah.
Entenmann's cookie.
Oh, dude, 6 peanuts, and it took me 30 minutes to open the bag. That's so
Yep.
good. Thank
That's
you,
some of the worst-
airline.
Can I go off on no? The one thing that freaks me out as someone who's like
We're all Jerry
too
Seinfeld
cozy
right
and,
now.
and with the OCD stuff is like you'll get a drink or snacks and then you just have to sit with your trash for like 30 minutes. I guess
Oh.
it drives me crazy having so much trash and it's like as soon as they come in I can dump the trash, but it's like oh my god, there's not enough space.
You don't like fill the kangaroo pouch in the back seat.
Oh, I do, but then I
With
feel
trash?
I'm so irritable by the end of plane rides that I always feel bad for whoever's sitting next to me. Like I'm probably fidgeting, so I'm like I don't know. I feel so bad for anyone who says, I'm not like that horrendous, but just like I'm such a fidgety person. I can't sit still. So like, man, I don't know. It's just nice not to. Okay, after a month of traveling,
Yeah.
oh my God, it feels good to not have to be on an airplane. But at the same time, extremely thankful and grateful for the opportunities. But yeah, air travel is like the opportunity cost of like, all right, you gotta be on this plane.
Yep.
But then when you get off, you gotta go out Akihabara, and it's, what's better than that?
We get to
It's
go
very
on fun
the
trips.
travel is taxing. Yeah, it's always worth it, but like, God, is it fucking exhausting. I'm going on my first trip in a while to Boston next month, and I'm dreading the plane ride, but it'll be worth it.
Yeah,
It'll be good.
It'll be good. It'll be fun. And you know, the only reason we're able to go on these fun trips and do all these fun things is because of you. It's because of you, great listeners, and all the people who support us at patreon.com/noclip. You can support the podcast, fund our documentaries, keep Danny on airplanes, get him back to work. What are you doing? Having fun? Get back to work. And get access to all of our bonus episodes and the official Discord at patreon.com/noclip. Become a patron, support our work, support our trips, keep us playing video games and eating food and going outside and having fun and getting on airplanes, which we love doing and we didn't just complain about for 10 minutes straight. It's so much fun. In terms of projects that we have coming up, nothing has changed since the last time you heard from us, because we've got like all this backlog of stuff, this pile of stuff ready to go. Frank, sorry, is there something?
No, I did want to congratulate though that Jeremy's Counter-Strike documentary has like over 500,000
That's
views.
true.
Thank you, dude.
That's nuts.
I was blown away. Yeah, I mean, obviously it gets a little bit of the Half-Life bump. Like I can't, I can't be like,
come on now.
I picked the best dog. It's a little bit cheating to pick like something like our Black Mesa documentary has like 3 fucking million. So,
because it's
but
good
still,
too.
yeah. Well, no, I mean it's not that not that it's not good. It's just that it's like it's jet fuel for.
No, I know what you mean.
For
all of our
audience
docs are
coverage.
good, but some of them only have 30,000 views.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I was very, very humbled and blown away by the response of it. It got reposted by like the official Counter-Strike Twitter account. It got reposted by Goose, who was one of the creators of of Counter-Strike. And yeah, I was very humbled. So thank you guys for helping me make it, and thank you to all our patrons for funding it. It was kind of I mentioned it before, but this was a project sort of like 10 years in the making. I first messaged Dave Johnston at when I worked at GameSpot, and it never came to fruition there. So I'm glad it came to fruition here instead.
Yeah. And finally, everyone can learn about Dave Johnston and his wonderful works.
I'll never live down fucking up his name.
Dude, the bloopers are very fun. We should start doing more of those. I feel like they've been pretty common in docs, but
yeah, Danny's been having fun with it, especially in the Dredge one.
Yeah,
with his beard. Yeah. Oh man, that whole ending credits bit was worth sitting through. I bet the analytics for that are actually surprisingly good for a credits section of a documentary. But yeah, thanks for your support. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week with, I think, a whole crew, which would be very cool to have for the first time in, I think, a month or something like that. We're so back. Get ready for episode 200. If you have any funny ideas, let us know. Email us, comments, Discord, whatever. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And you'll hear more of our thoughts next week with another episode of the Noclip Crewcast. We'll see you then. Goodbye. Bye.